Okay.
Well, at least you don't have the same story as in my program.
You ready? You were born ready. I know, Mark.
Absolutely.
Right. All right. Well, we will get started. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
On behalf of the United States Postal Service, I'd like to welcome everybody here today as we begin the 2024 round of collective bargaining with the American Postal Workers Union. I'm also pleased to be joined today by our Chief Executive Officer and Postmaster General and my boss, the guy to my right over here, Louis DeJoy. Louis is going to be giving his remarks in a couple of minutes. I'd also like to introduce that character next to Louis, Tom Bloom, Vice President of Labor Relations for the Postal Service. And last but not least, Shannon Richardson, who will be the Chief Spokesperson for the Postal Service for this round of bargaining. And Shannon is going to introduce our team just in a couple of minutes. We've been involved in numerous rounds of collective bargaining. And each round of bargaining brings with it those unique set of challenges for the parties to address, and this round is going to be no different. But as we have shown throughout our history, we are capable of finding mutually acceptable solutions to the challenges that each round of bargaining brings. The Delivery for America plan will continue to be the foundation to transform the Postal Service into a self-sustaining, viable entity for decades to come. I believe by continuing to work together through our collective bargaining process, we can craft solutions that enable us to accomplish necessary changes to our infrastructure so we can continue the process of building a world-class processing, logistics, and delivery network. With the continuing substantial decline in first-class mail volume, there is no doubt that the future viability and long-term financial health of the service is predicated upon our ability to capture market share and revenue in the package delivery market. We are implementing critical infrastructural changes to allow us to move mail and packages together through our newly created RPDCs, LPCs, and S&DCs. Implementing these infrastructure changes is absolutely necessary to our ability to remain viable for decades to come. And progress is never achieved without overcoming obstacles. The Postal Service has had to overcome obstacles for more than 2 centuries. And overcoming obstacles to set a new course for the Postal Service requires a spirit of cooperation and the ability to challenge ourselves to view workplace issues differently. We have examples of doing just that. For instance, addressing the issue of outsourcing transportation, where the parties have had a long history of opposing perspectives. We discussed and compromised our long-held positions and crafted solutions where both parties benefited. We did so through our pilot memorandums of understanding, creating the postal vehicle operator position and making other necessary modifications where the end result culminated in the efficient insourcing of transportation that was historically outsourced for decades. That is turning a long-standing negative into a positive for both of us. And as that example shows, we are not opposed to altering long-standing work practices, provided modifying those work practices lead to mutual benefits, where the Postal Service gains efficiencies that enable us to better serve our customers. And we are certainly aware that making change is difficult. And the path we are on to transform the Postal Service is not going to be an easy one, but the changes we are implementing are absolutely essential to our survival. I commit to continuing the process of cooperation and thinking differently about solutions to the inevitable problems that we will have to face and resolve in this round of collective bargaining. Deploying the ingenuity and adaptability I've just discussed to this round of bargaining will certainly help us in our mutual quest to achieve a negotiated labor agreement. I believe that the people gathered in this room on both sides of the table have the foresight to make the necessary decisions to ensure that the Postal Service remains relevant for decades to come. I again look forward to working with you, Mark, and your entire bargaining team and all the employees to achieve a negotiated agreement, one that meets the objective of our respective organizations enables us to continue the outstanding service to our customers, the American public. With that, I'm going to shut my mouth and turn it over to Shannon, who's going to introduce the rest of our bargaining team. Shannon, all yours.
Thank you, Doug. Good morning. So as members of our team, we have different crafts and people handling general articles. So I'm going to start with the introduction of the general articles. Judy Reeder is going to be the chairperson. She is seated in our gallery section over there. Along with her will be Zachy Morgan. He's a labor relations specialist at headquarters. Sarah Boykin, who is an acting labor specialist at headquarters. Fred Hernick, he is a labor relations specialist for the Atlantic area. And Jeannie Ramirez, who is a labor relations specialist in the central area. Then for the clerk craft, that is going to be led by Dion Mealy, who is sitting down towards the end of that end of the table. She is a member of my staff at headquarters labor relations. She will be, on her team will be Darlene Q, who is a labor relations specialist in the Westpac area. Denise Carbone, who is a labor relations specialist with contract compliance at headquarters. And then Philip Stanley, who is an operations specialist representing mail processing. And Fong Quang, who is a post office strategy and optimization department representing postal or retail operations. For our maintenance team, it will be chaired by Tom Elias, sitting at the end on this end of the table as a member of my team with Headquarters Labor Relations. With him will be Dan O'Sullivan, who is a labor relations specialist for the Southern area. Patrick Picotti, who is an acting labor relations specialist for the Atlantic area. Steve Wheeler, who is a retail and post office operations maintenance program specialist. He's representing the field maintenance operations. And Joe Biter, who is a maintenance division implementation support specialist representing headquarters maintenance. And then for the MVS craft, it'll be led by Robert Ocasio, sitting here to my left. He's a labor relations specialist with my group at headquarters. Elisa Bassa, who is a labor relations specialist for the Atlantic area. DeAndre James, labor relations specialist with collective bargaining and arbitration. Sean Yaklin, he's a logistics operations support specialist representing the logistics operations. And Masa Shabuya, who is a vehicle operations specialist representing fleet management. For the operating services, we have Jeannie Ostrowski, who is not here today. She is a labor relations specialist with the collective bargaining and arbitration team. And Mary Jo Hauge, who is also a labor relations specialist with the collective bargaining and arbitration. For our attorneys, we are represented by Michelle Winmuller, who is the chief counsel labor law, as well as Claire Boland Arlano, Chris O'Connell, and Lauren Hyman. And that's our team. Thank you.
Hey, Mark, flipping it over to you. Charlie.
Great. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. It is an honor to be able to welcome everyone to the opening session of the 2024 negotiations between the American Postal Workers Union, AFL-CIO, and the United States Postal Service. I am Charlie Cash, the Director of Industrial Relations for the American Postal Workers Union, and I will be serving as Chief Spokesperson for the union throughout these negotiations. And as our negotiations get underway, I want to remind everybody of the impact of these negotiations. The 2021 APWU collective bargaining agreement expires on September 20th, 2024. The contract we will begin to negotiate today covers 200,000 postal workers and will affect 3 times that number of people when their families are considered. This is the largest collective bargaining agreement that will be negotiated in American labor this year. These negotiations are personal to me, not just because I participate them and as an active postal worker, I will benefit from them, but because of what the Postal Service has meant to me and my family. You see, I'm a 4th generation postal employee. My great-grandfather was a postmaster in rural America. My grandfather was a letter carrier who died delivering his route. He was hit and killed by a drunk driver. My father was also a letter carrier and a postmaster for over 30 years after his return from the Korean War. A postal job was a good and steady job, and the income and benefits were, in rural America where I grew up, enough to give me stability and a chance to succeed as I was growing up. As an adult, I've learned that not everyone had that kind of stability in their youth. And in 1994, I followed in my family's footsteps and I joined the postal ranks as a clerk. I've even married a postal clerk who is also a union leader in the APWU. I was proud then, and I am proud now to be a postal worker because I know what a postal job can mean to a worker and their family. It can mean having a respectable job that lifts up a family, not giving them vast riches, of course, but the kind of income and benefits that give a steady existence and allows for a comfortable retirement. But I don't take these things for granted, and I've seen how we've gone backwards in key ways that mean not all postal workers will experience the stability that I've experienced. That's why my dedication to the APWU, to a successful postal service, and to a contract that moves postal workers and the service forward comes from this personal experience that I want all my fellow postal workers to enjoy. When I was in the workplace, every time a contract came up for negotiation, I looked forward to seeing what the Postal Service would do to recognize my work, contributions, and dedication to this company. As we start today, I ask the same question I am sure is on the minds of thousands of postal workers. Will the service recognize the work, contribution, and dedication of the APWU bargaining units? We have heard you say that you want employees to have a good facility to work in. We are told time after time that employees should be treated with dignity, respect, and have a good working environment. The APWs wants all those things as well, but we want more than platitudes. We are open to new ideas and we want enforceable agreements, longer and better career employment opportunities for everyone we represent, and pay and benefits that recognize the employees that are not seen by the public every day. The members of the APWU who keep the mail moving through the network. No mail gets to the letter carriers to be put into the mailboxes on the streets without the people of the American Postal Workers Union. I've been around long enough to understand that what we collectively do starting today matters to both sides. To you, the leaders of the Postal Service, you need the workers represented by the American Postal Workers Union to meet the mission of the Postal Service, which is to provide prompt, reliable, and efficient service to every single address in America. More specifically, the Postal Service and the vital mission cannot succeed without the work and effort of the APWU bargaining units. It is time to deliver, not just for America, but to those represented by the APWU. And I am confident that they will continue to do what they have always done: deliver prompt, reliable, and efficient service to the American public. The APWU Executive Vice President, Debbie Zaretti, will introduce those who are seated at the table today. And following Vice President Zaretti, APWU Secretary Treasurer Elizabeth Powell will read some statements from supporters of not only the workers we represent, but supporters of the Postal Service who recognize the role the Postal Service plays in the lives of all Americans. Following Ms. Powell, President Mark Dimmenstein will present the opening statement of the American Postal Workers Union. Thank you. And on behalf of the APWU, we look forward to negotiating an agreement that honors, respects, and recognizes the work that the APWU members provide each day. Vice President Zaretti.
Thank you. I'm Debbie Zaretti. I'm the Executive Vice President for the American Postal Workers Union, AFL-CIO. And I'm very honored today to introduce our core negotiating committee. And with that, I'd like to say, as you know, Mark Dimmenstein, who is also our lead negotiator. Liz Powell, who is our Secretary Treasurer. Charlie Cash, he's introduced himself, and he is also our Chief Spokesperson. And then we have Mike Foster. Mike Foster is our Director for the Division of Motor Vehicle Services. And then we have Balagon, which is our Maintenance Division and our Director. And then we have over to the other side, we have Lamont Brooks, who is our Clerk Craft Division Director. And then we have Aaron Brown, who is our Division Support Services Director. I also want to introduce that we have people here today from our national office. our officers that are resident officers. We also have wonderful staff. And with that, I also want to say a couple of words for those who are on the live stream. We want to welcome our national field officers that are out there watching, which is our NBAs. We also want to recognize our rank and file advisory bargaining committee. And we want to recognize all of the rank and file members that are out there, besides our local and state officers and leaders that are watching today. And we appreciate that you're here with us and to be able to start this national negotiations. The other thing is that we'd like to say that we believe that we're going to be successful and productive. And just want to say for those out there, please don't forget, join our contract campaign. We'd like you to be involved because this is going to be saving our futures and also the future of the Postal Service. With that, I'd like to introduce the Secretary Treasurer again and our regional coordinators as well. We're also going to introduce now our Secretary Treasurer, Liz Powell, and she will then give a report of our other supporters that we have that are leaders from around the country.
Thank you, Debbie. Postmaster General Louis DeJoy, Deputy Postmaster General and Chief Human Resources Officer Doug Tolino, to the Director, Contract Administration for the APWU and the USPS Chief Spokesperson, and all other USP representatives, good morning. Since the defense of the Public Postal Service is far bigger than the APWU, and it belongs to all the people of this country, before we proceed to President Demostein's remarks, he has asked me to share some short statements from three notable individuals. I will begin with AFL-CIO President Liz Shuler, representing the broad labor movement of 12.5 million workers. Next, the President of and CEO of the NAACP, Derek Johnson, representing the Civil Rights Movement. And last, but definitely not least, Senator Bernie Sanders. From Liz Shuler, on behalf of the more than 12.5 million working people across the AFL-CIO, we stand shoulder to shoulder with our over 200,000 APW brothers, sisters, and siblings as they head into these negotiations. I don't need to tell you, postal workers' work and dedication connects the very fabric of our nation. Because postal workers move the mail, the U.S. Postal Service should also move to answer their demands at the table. Postal workers deserve good jobs, safe jobs. They deserve well-paying jobs. And postal workers deserve an end to the two-tier pay system. It's not improving job retention, and it's not working. So it's time for every postal worker to receive good pay and benefits. I urge the Postal Service to come to these negotiations in good faith and reach a fair agreement that reflects the critical role postal workers play for hundreds of millions of people across the nation. These workers and all workers deserve the basic dignity of good wages, benefits, and a voice on the job. Secretary Treasurer Fred Redmond, our more than 12.5 million workers across our 60 unions, stand side by side with the APW in these negotiations. And we look forward to a fair deal so our postal workers can continue to deliver for America all across the country. From Derek Johnson, President and CEO, NAACP. For generations, postal employment has served as an avenue for Black Americans to reach the middle class. Since the Civil War, these occupations have been a reality in our community. Despite the evolution of the economy and the advancement of technology over the years, the Postal Service and its personnel continue to be an essential component of the culture and communities of the United States. We must continue to guarantee that these positions remain exceptional and that the opportunities available to all postal workers are inclusive and equitable. The NAACP is in solidarity with the APW as they persist in their efforts to protect the rights of all workers and guarantee the viability of this pathway for the middle class, calling upon USPS leadership to ensure its employees earn a livable wage, receive competitive benefits, and execute a collective bargaining agreement that ensures the health and well-being of everyone to execute the mission and purpose of the United States Postal Service. And as I said, last but not least, Senator Bernie Sanders. Let me thank the more than 200,000 postal workers with the American Postal Workers Union for this great and important work you do for the American people. Let me also thank the APW for standing up for decent paying jobs, benefits, and working conditions at the United States Postal Service. Millions of people all over the country, particularly in rural states like Vermont, rely on dependable and quality postal services every day to conduct their business, receive life-saving prescription medicine, get Social Security checks, receive a package, or stay in touch with family and friends. I am delighted to stand in strong solidarity with the APW as you begin your negotiations for a new union contract. Today, I'm calling on Postmaster General Louis DeJoy and management to bargain in good faith with the APW and to sign a new union contract ensuring safe and respectful workplaces and fairly compensating workers and not barriers to improving the Postal Service. They're essential in doing so. To every postal worker fighting for a fair new contract, know that I stand with you and I offer my full support and solidarity in your efforts to achieve a fair collective bargaining agreement. In closing, on behalf of myself, Elizabeth Liz Powell, Secretary Treasurer for the American Postal Workers Union, I am looking forward to successful negotiations between the parties that will result in a collective bargaining agreement that's representative of your USPS employees and our APW members. So with that, I thank each of you for your attention and turn it over to the president of the APW, Mark Dimmenstein. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Treasurer Powell. Good morning, one and all, on both sides of the table and all the good folks from around the country tuning in. The American Postal Workers Union, AFL-CIO, welcomes this opportunity to represent approximately 200,000 postal workers in these important negotiations for a new collective bargaining agreement between our union and the Postal Service. For generations, postal workers were denied our rights to negotiate over wages, benefits, and conditions of employment. Instead, workers were compelled to engage in what we called collective begging to Congress, and our livelihoods were subject to the whims of politicians and political parties. That, of course, changed 54 years ago when postal workers won true collective bargaining rights resulting from the Great Postal Strike of 1970. Since that historic strike, postal workers' lives have vastly improved. Now representatives of our union sit across the bargaining table from management as equals, not because we have important titles, but because we have a union sustained and supported by our members. In that sense, all our members are present at the bargaining table today, including the 8,600 additional postal workers who have joined the APW in the last 3 months as we prepared for this round of bargaining. Every round of negotiations takes place in the context of the times. 3 years ago, we negotiated in the shadow of the pandemic. During that time, postal workers courageously stepped up to the challenge as frontline essential workers and under severe stress carried out our invaluable mission to the people with great dedication at a time when the people needed us the most. Our dedication to the postal mission carries on day in and day out, whether in times of pandemics and natural disasters or more normal times. And postal workers have earned and deserve a good and improved union contract. Today, we are negotiating against a backdrop of both high inflation, with its profound negative impact on workers and our families, along with rising worker militancy throughout the country. Delivery, warehouse, auto, railroad, retail, hotel, manufacturing, grocery, healthcare, and education workers have been rising, demanding more of their fair share from employers, all while galloping income inequality enriches the billionaire class. They are fighting and often striking to win substantial gains, to overcome years of concessionary contracts and falling behind financially. Many of these battles have been focused on ending divisive two-tier wage and benefit systems and getting ahead of the rising cost of food, fuel, and housing. In the 2010 collective bargaining agreement, the APW and the USPS voluntarily reached a deeply concessionary contract for postal workers. Now I think any objective observer would see that many of these significant concessions have been a failure for both the workers and the well-being of the Postal Service. The two-tier wage system, which has many workers doing the same work, but at significantly lower pay scales, causes division, low morale, and discriminates against newer and younger workers. Lower wage structures, including the non-career workforce, make it harder for the Postal Service to hire and retain needed positions, and undermines the stability of the workforce, once a mainstay of the Postal Service. There's a direct connection between these problems and the disturbing and deepening delays in mail service. We do welcome the progress we have made in the last 3 rounds of bargaining in overcoming some of the deep concessions from 2010, including bridging some of the gaps in the tiered wage structure, a better path to career for non-career workers, and creating an all-career workforce in the maintenance division and essentially in the motor vehicle service division as well. But there is more work to do. Obviously, this opening session is not the time to get into specific proposals we will be making regarding the issues most important to postal workers. The main table will begin meeting later today to begin that process. However, generally speaking, the APW does have clear and transparent goals. As postal workers pour our lifeblood into the institution and its mission, workers deserve good annual pay raises, stronger safety rights, and an end to the unfair and divisive two-tier career pay scales, limits on subcontracting, a career workforce, and better work guarantees and rights for part-time flexibles. We advocate that all bargaining unit work in retail be returned to the clerk craft, and that all the work bargained for in the jobs memos of 2010 finally be returned to the workers as promised. In the light of the impact of profound and rapid technological changes in our jobs, it's high time for a shorter work week with no loss of pay. And of course, the union strives to protect the hard-won gains and job security provisions secured over generations and for dignity and respect on the job. We will be putting forth proposals to address these and many other issues. While negotiations will undoubtedly be difficult and at times contentious, let me share a few examples where there should be much common ground. A toxic work environment permeates too many facilities, a long-standing problem in the culture of postal management that cries out for solutions. In good faith, we negotiated the Work Environment Task Force memo to address this issue, but it has proven to be a failure. It takes 2 to tango, and the management side never looked at the task force as an opportunity to actually make needed change. Much of the answer depends on the highest levels of management holding managers fully accountable for abuse, whether it's sexual harassment, threats, or bullying. Management and both sides should desire to address the endless stream of grievances resulting from constant violations of the union contract. Repeat violators must be held accountable for their flagrant violations and the substantial and unnecessary costs they inflict on the Postal Service, as well as the hardship and anxiety visited upon our members. In addition, management should promote full compliance with issues that are settled, whether it's step 1 of the grievance process or arbitration. Continuing battles over settled matters undermine the very intent of our contract to resolve issues at the lowest possible level and that settlements are final and binding. Those who refuse to comply should no longer be in positions of authority. The union is deeply disturbed by the declining service to the postal customers. Management ought to share that concern and should be open to considering the union's proposals to fix the service problems, including the need for proper staffing. Declining service jeopardizes our bond with the people of the country, drives away needed revenue, and opens the gates for those who want to privatize the public postal service. These are just some examples of where the parties with common ground should work to resolve problems in these negotiations. The APW also approaches these negotiations as an opportunity to promote our vision for a vibrant public postal service and expanded postal services for the people of the country. Our members and our union are passionate about the crucial mission of the public postal service, as outlined in the 1970 Postal Reorganization Act, quote, provide postal services to bind the nation together, to provide prompt, reliable, and efficient services to patrons in all areas, and to render postal services to all communities, end of quote. This mission remains in jeopardy by those in Wall Street who would like to get their hands on the Postal Service's billions of dollars in annual revenue, and by ideologues who oppose the very concept of the public good. Yes, we have welcomed opportunities of cooperation with USPS management as we sought and secured vital postal reform legislation to expand postal services, return of subcontracted work, and in addressing short staffing in mail processing. Yet there are far too many management practices, some inherited, which have led to severely degraded services, delayed mail, and the driving away of customers and revenue. Moving the goalpost on service standards, long-distance consolidation of mail processing, and the implementation of network changes are causing havoc and failing to meet the needs of the postal public. In addition to some of the general goals I've outlined, the APW will put forth proposals for expanding financial and other services, improving certain delivery standards, reactivating express mail services, expanding the network and hours of service, proper staffing, and keeping local mail local. We are keenly aware that the Postal Service is still facing serious challenges, including the impact of technology and the internet on the communication habits of the people of the country, and the profound and permanent changes to the mail mix. Letters are down while packages are up. Such changes create both hardships and hope. While we recognize some of the financial challenges, the finances of the Postal Service are no longer weighed down by the draconian pre-funding mandate from 2006, now eliminated by the 2022 Postal Service Reform Act. In addition, some PRC relief on the price cap has uplifted the finances, and the soon-to-be implemented Medicare integration will help the bottom line of both employees and the United States Postal Service. Management should never forget in these negotiations that APW represented postal workers voluntarily agreed to over $4 billion of deep wage and benefit concessions in the 2010-2015 contract, resulting in significant and ongoing cost reductions for the Postal Service that carry forward to this day. As we look to the future, there are competing visions for the Postal Service. One professes that in the day of the internet, the Postal Service is a relic of the past. Those who want to destroy us, often funded by the likes of UPS, use these changes to advocate for the breaking up and the privatizing of the Postal Service, as did the previous White House administration. Postal workers and the APW's vision are for a robust and vibrant postal service for generations to come. Those in postal management who believe in the public postal service, and I know many of you do, should not be afraid of creative thinking and bold action as we discuss various ways to enhance and expand postal services rather than play into the hands of those who would like to destroy us on the altar of private profit. This is the fourth round of bargaining in which I am privileged to be the union's lead negotiator. Each time I have been reminded of former PMG Donahoe shamefully advocated that young workers don't deserve traditional defined benefit retirement plans, job security, and stable employment, and called on Congress to use the Postal Service as an incubator for destroying decent jobs. And much of this thinking did lead to the formation of the non-career workforce that we still have today. We vehemently oppose the race to the bottom. We believe that the Postal Service should indeed be an incubator, as it has been for decades, but an incubator for good, living wage union jobs for workers of all walks of life, with equal pay for equal work for women and minorities, and solid job opportunities for veterans, and an incubator of great public service to every community, including new and expanded services for the people of the country. The key to the Postal Service's successful and bright future remains the skills, the capabilities, the hard work, and the dedication of hundreds of thousands of postal workers, from those who sell postage and accept packages, to those who sort medicine and catalogs, to those who transport the mail and repair the vehicles, to those who maintain the equipment and facilities, to those who deliver the mail. We were pleased to hear Postmaster General DeJoy's recent public remarks that a respectable environment with a respectable wage rate and a respectable retirement for postal workers is part of his winning strategy. We share that view, and these negotiations are an opportunity for management to reward our dedication and hard work. We recognize and appreciate that in the 2021 round of bargaining, management approached the negotiations in good faith, as did the APW. The bargaining was hard, but we reached a fair, voluntary agreement without concessions that reflected those good faith efforts. We certainly hope that management will approach this round of bargaining with the same spirit. For our part, we will approach these negotiations with a passion for the workers we represent and the public we serve. We will forthrightly share our proposals and be honest in our dealings. We will work hard to achieve a negotiated collective bargaining agreement subject to approval by our rank and file bargaining advisory committee and the ratification of our members. We enter these negotiations as part of a movement of friends and allies to protect and enhance a vital and wonderful national treasure that remains a cornerstone in every community. As we meet here on opening day, thousands of APW members around the country are taking up our mantra, good contract now, union proud, say aloud, as we work to advance the well-being of current and future postal workers, our families, our communities, and our country. The APW is ready to get to work. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see everybody again. On the way up here on the elevator, Doug informed me that this was his 37th negotiation. 37th one. I think I got him to commit to 10 more. So we'll see as time plays out. But thank you for your comments, Mark. I'm pleased to be taking part for the second time in the collective bargaining process with the American Postal Workers Union. I look forward to working with you throughout this round of bargaining to achieve a negotiated agreement. We have accomplished much together over the past few years. Since the release of the Delivering for America plan, we have worked together to stabilize our workforce through employee conversions, pass postal reform legislation, respond favorably to peak season demands, perform extraordinary services to support the American people during the pandemic, and initiate major endeavors that are improving our operating infrastructure, reducing our costs, and growing our business. Along the way, we have improved our service to the American people, reaching 93.18% on time for service for fiscal year 23, with over 64% of market-dominant mail being delivered a day in advance of its service standard, and 48% of Ground Advantage being delivered a day in advance of its service standard. Since the beginning of this fiscal year, we have worked to maintain our service reliability, expand our product offerings, and increase the implementation of our efficiency and standardization initiatives, while continuing to intensify our transformation efforts. These efforts resulted in substantial challenges in recent months. We are fixing them, and we will move on with our agenda. This peak season, we processed more volume, including 7% more package volume alone, leading the nation in market growth, with 8 million fewer work hours than the 2022 peak season, and while reducing peak season transportation costs by $489 million as compared to last year. This is an important consequence for our organization that has lost billions of dollars each year for this last 17 years. In the first half of this fiscal year, we worked through the challenging evacuation of a major gateway processing plant for 12 days because of a hazardous materials incident. When a major transportation and transfer hub supplier in 8 strategic locations across the country shut down abruptly, we immediately worked together to create transfer operations across 18 locations to handle more than 5,000 truckloads of mail and packages each day. Despite those challenges, we averaged 2.7 days to deliver mail and packages, with 92% of the population receiving their mail and packages within 3 days, and nearly 60% of market-dominant volume still delivering a day ahead of its service standards. We will continue to offer reliable and affordable products that align our mission and meet our business customer needs. USPS Connect successfully providing affordable solutions for businesses of all sizes and meets their consumer demand for fast delivery and convenient returns. Package shippers are becoming more interested in using our services as we continue the implementation of the full features of our e-commerce marketing initiatives and the widely accepted offering of Ground Advantage. Ground Advantage provides simple, reliable, and more affordable way to ship packages, and the consumers are noticing. Ground Advantage packages now move on the ground with mail and deliver 25.4% volume increase in this product in Q3, and an increase overall for fiscal year 24 to date of 21.3%. This increase in a declining year for package volume in the industry demonstrates that the Postal Service is growing. Finally, we are redefining our priority network to leverage our ground assets as we strive to produce a totally integrated mail and package network that will reduce cost and improve and grow revenue. We have delivered 3.5% more package volume overall this year to date when compared with the same period last year. We are capitalizing on our $15.4 billion commitment, self-funded Delivering for America investments and improvements, such as new equipment and a reconfigured network, new pricing, and enhanced operational precision. The massive and complex evolution towards modernization and transformation of the Postal Service includes correcting decades of neglect to our physical infrastructure and overall network. Successful implementation of the Delivering for America plan means our employees will be working in modern facilities with the latest equipment to process and deliver mail and packages to the American people. We initiated the rollout of our new regional processing and distribution centers, regions, with implementation activities ongoing in 7 major cities. And by the end of 2024, we intend to bring 9 RPDC regions to an improved future state. In fact, the third quarter alone, we implemented and activated 3 regional processing and distribution centers, partially activated 4 more, and another 4 are under design and construction. We are aggressively opening sorting and delivery centers, which represent a critical part of our future network. As we have now activated a total of 68 S&DCs since we began. After years of deferred maintenance and neglecting essential updates, we are making significant improvements in our local processing centers. Specifically, we have begun to make improvements to more than 27 local processing centers by adding paint, redoing floors, lighting, removing lookout galleries, moving machine sets, and reconstructing docks. We are implementing operational improvements and training our employee workforce so we are able to compete in the package market. These efforts will stabilize service today and ensure that our network initiatives achieve their long-term full potential. As I visit our modernized plants, I see the excitement and engagement that a proper workplace can bring to both our labor force and our management team. It is not everything, but it's not nothing. As we move forward, we cannot just focus on delivering mail for tomorrow, but must be focused on mail delivery long into the future by ensuring the long-term viability of the Postal Service. The Delivering for America strategic plan embodies our ambition to modernize and transform the Postal Service. The long-term viability of the Postal Service has been in jeopardy for more than 14 years. Prior to the issuance of the Delivering for America plan and would still be in jeopardy today without the changes we are currently pursuing. Since the release of the DFA, we have reduced our projected operating losses by $15 billion and would have been very close to breaking even if it were not for the excessive $9 billion inflation incurred beyond our pricing power. We have also reduced our projected 10-year loss from nearly $160 billion to $65 billion and have strategies to reduce it further. The DFA plan has changed this organization for the better in many ways. The DFA plan represents Postal Service commitment to evolve to a point where we can see the path forward to covering our costs by selling our products and services. This approach is what we must continue to do to survive. We must evolve and continue to make change. We have accomplished many of the DFA plan initiatives, but what is more important than the initiatives themselves is our collective alignment to changing the mindset and culture of the Postal Service for the purpose of creating an organization that has the passion for pursuing initiatives to drive efficiency and reliability by striving for financial sustainability. That is the ultimate mission of the Delivering for America plan. While many of the challenges we face in recent years are similar to the ones we have faced for decades, the Postal Service is now approaching solutions to those problems in a vastly different manner. In the past, solutions were limited to cost-cutting efforts and foregoing improvements, sometimes essential ones, simply avoiding spending. Instead, the Postal Service is now spending, investing in the Postal Service and its employees. We are turning our attention to long-term needed facility improvements so our employees can work in bright, modern buildings. We are also bringing work in-house. In the past, our operational and financial strategies relied heavily on outsourcing work. No longer. We are now insourcing surface transfer centers, terminal handling service work, transportation routes, and are in the process of eliminating portions of work share arrangements as regard to our package business. Now we are insourcing this work because we're doing so fits within the Delivering for America plan infrastructures. Through the 408 mail processing facility review process, the Postal Service evaluates the efficiency of our operations to consider whether to move some or all originating mail operations and volume out of a facility to consolidate them into regional plants to establish consistency, precision, and efficiency. We have engaged in these facility consolidations in the past. What is different this time? Everything. Prior consolidation processes had only one objective: cost savings, and typically only saw one result: facility closure. This is not the intent of our current facility review process. In the past, we had discontinued or substantially curtailed operations in a facility, consolidated its operations into another facility, closed that facility altogether. In stark contrast, our current approach is to invest in these facilities. We are investing hundreds of millions of dollars in these facilities to completely refurbish and equip them to serve our communities for decades to come. So while we are considering moving small portions of mail operations out of these facilities, we are also making significant investments into modernizing them. That includes completing long-deferred maintenance, installing state-of-the-art sortation equipment that meets our current business needs, and upgrading employee amenities to provide better lockers, break rooms, and other amenities. The goal is to enhance the productivity and capacity of our mail and package processing operations, improve our retail capability, and help our employees do their jobs more efficiently and under better working conditions. To date, we have been executing on our facility review process, facility by facility, to determine the future role in our network and the investments required to modernize them, as I have just described. Because this initiative is not simply about moving small portions of our mail processing operations, but is mostly about significant investment in these facilities consistent with our national strategy. We must aggregate and plan our workload in this area and organize in a systematic manner. Similarly, we are aligning our operating practices and processes to eliminate redundancies, establish a flexible network that allows us to move mail and packages logically together in a streamlined operation through well-staffed modern facilities that are equipped with cutting-edge technologies. These essential processes are a key part of the transformation of our entire network and are yet another example of how we are solving old problems in a very different and new way. These are not the consolidations of the past. In closing, a little story as to how I see all aspects of our journey. About 4 years ago, we rolled out our approach of replacing our aging vehicles. As you recall, we received a great deal of criticism and resistance to our approach. Later today, I will be at the White House to accept the Presidential Award on behalf of the Postal Service for leading the nation in electrifying our fleet. In my mind, while we may have adapted our approach, we haven't changed our goal from 4 years ago in this subject. Find a way to get us new vehicles and be cost effective in growing our business to profitability while fulfilling our mission. That means we needed to do something. That means embrace the change and navigate it. Positive change for growth, efficiency, and working conditions is what the DFA is about. And these changes are important. Why? Because they set us up to compete better by providing the right facility configurations, equipment, tools, and training so that we then compete with FedEx, UPS, and others in the growing package business, which is essential for our future, because everything we were doing before wasn't working. We appreciate your continued support and pledge to continue to seek your input to address these issues and challenges that arise as we implement the Delivering for America plan. Collective bargaining is an opportunity to address some of our most critical issues and challenges. Let us jointly focus on how we can reach an agreement that will make the Postal Service stronger than ever. Whatever our disagreements may be, I know we share one common objective: a secure and prosperous Postal Service. I know that if we work together We will find solutions that will enable us to achieve this objective and deliver a new negotiated labor contract that meets all our needs and keeps us delivering for America. Thank you for continued service and dedication to this incredible organization. I look forward to meeting with you tomorrow and your board and discuss other matters regarding postal service. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Bargaining team is going to meet later on today at the main table, correct?
Yes, that is correct. Yes, 1 o'clock back in this room.
So
main
with that,
table.
And we'll have a contract by 5 p.m.
there you go. By 5 o'clock, we'll be done. Let the games begin.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
All righty.
Thank you.